and welcome or welcome back to another episode of The Pilot Principle, the podcast where we take a look at just the first episode of a series, the pilot, and then use it to decide if we should watch the entire series. I put a poll up on Instagram asking you to help me choose which show I should be reviewing this week, and that is why on this episode of The Pilot Principle we will be taking a look at episode 1 of Disney Plus's new historical drama series, Say Nothing. Say Nothing is a gripping story of murder and mystery in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. Sorry for anybody who lost when they voted for Cross for this week's episode. Cross stars Aldous Hodge and was released over on Prime Video, and I believe it is based on I want to say James Patterson novel, but unfortunately that's all I'm going to say on that. Now, when it comes to Say Nothing, as usual, I had absolutely no idea what I was walking into when I pressed play on episode 1. In fact, what actually convinced me to even get to that point was the poster, which showed a ginger-headed person with I want to say turtleneck? Roll neck? Does anybody say roll neck anymore? Anyway, said ginger-headed person had a turtleneck pulled up covering half their face, and then they had a finger across their lips in the universal sign of shh. It was creepy and it was effective. So it goes to show, don't assume you need big names to pull an audience in. Sometimes all you need is a fantastic poster. I feel like this is going to be a very short episode, so let's just get into it by running through the credits. So episode 1 is titled The Cause, and the synopsis is pretty similar to the serial synopsis. So it basically says a story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland. We have an episode length of 41 minutes, a series length of 9 episodes, and you can catch Say Nothing on Disney Plus in the UK and over on FX in the US. The Cause was written by Joshua Zetuma, who is also the TV series creator. Zetuma has also written RoboCop, the 2014 movie, and Patriots Day. The episode was directed by Michael Lennox, who has also directed all 19 episodes of Dairy Girls. Moving over to cast, the pilot stars Lola Pettigrew as a younger Dolours Price, and Pettigrew has also starred in Bloodlands, not to be confused with Bloodlines. Yes, I did make that mistake. And the second member of cast to note is Hazel Dupe, who plays Marianne Price, and Dupe has been in Kathleen Is Here. The pilot also stars Maxine Peake as an older Dolours Price, Anthony Boyle as Brendan Hughes, and Josh Finnan as Jerry Adams. I like Josh Finnan. He starred in The Responder, and when you just latch onto an actor and you just want to see them keep getting roles? Him. Well done, Finnan. Say Nothing is based on a book by Patrick Radden Keefe, and it is also based on a true story, which I had no idea about until somewhere in the first 10 minutes. But as soon as I heard that it was based on a true story, I don't know what it is, but there's a little part of me that was extra interested. Does that make sense? I don't know what it is about the human psychology or human connection that as soon as you hear based on a true story, you're like, ooh, what happened? Let me snuggle into my blanket and get some popcorn. Educate me, We're on a Tootsie Roll here, aren't we? I promise I'm not rushing to get anywhere. It's just going very quickly. So let's just get into talking about the first 10 minutes, which, if you didn't know, is the foundation for a pilot. Nay, for a series, as the job of the first 10 minutes is to set the tone and introduce you to this brand new world. And the first 10 minutes of The Cause goes like this. A voiceover gives us a handy little summary of the dispute on Ireland, telling us that during the Troubles, some die by bomb, some by bullet, others simply disappear. Then we are in Belfast, 1972, watching the lives of a family run by a woman we later come to know as Jean. Jean's daughter, Helen, pops out to get dinner, and Jean slips into the bath to get a few moments to herself. And she kind of earned it. She's got 10 kids. So 9 of her kids are basically chilling, and then there's a knock at the door. But it's not Helen with the chips. A fearsome looking group barge their way in and round up the kids before yanking Jean out of the bath. Most of the group wear crude masks of pale nude tights or, threadbare hats pulled down over their faces with snipped out holes for eyes. There are two distinct people without masks, though: a woman with ginger hair and an older man. The group eventually leave the flat, pulling Jean along with them, and as one of her kids watches from the doorway, the older man holds a finger to his lips and whispers, "Shh." 19 years later, in Dublin, we meet an interviewer who is working on the Belfast Project. The Belfast Project is about preserving oral histories that won't be heard until the interviewee is dead. The interviewer today sat down with Dolours, and once she is assured that the recording will remain anonymous, she begins to talk about growing up with her sister and her parents. We learn that both her parents were proud members of the Irish Republican Army, the IRA. Her dad, who at one point was in prison, teaches his daughters the pride in saying nothing when you're beaten and questioned. Ultimately, though, we watch as a teenage Dolours rebels against her parents, who mock her for choosing peace to unite Ireland instead of their methods of violence. And that is about the 10-minute mark. I think starting out by giving a very brief history of what happened in Ireland, emphasis on the word very brief, was great, because it means that anybody coming in fresh who doesn't quite know the history or recall it can automatically feel like they are on level footing. Also, can I just say that I find it absolutely wild that something that happened in the 70s is considered history? Like, textbook worthy history. That's insane to me. I also think what works really well about the opening 10 minutes is that it is chocked full of narrative. We've got Jean being taken away, the oral history project happening in the present. Then we've got Dolours in the present talking about her past and then seeing her past played out on screen. Already at the end of the first 10 minutes, we are intrigued to know more and learn about how these seemingly random things, Jean and Dolours, might end up being connected. Also, I kind of think it's important to note that Dolours has ginger hair. It's a great distinction, especially as we're moving through time within the pilot episode. So it means that we can always possibly spot where Dolours is. And it's entirely possible, if you were paying attention, that she was in the house when Jean was taken. Unless it was somebody else with ginger hair. I don't know. Could have been a cheeky red herring because she's got red hair. Right, let's keep going as we talk about character. And to be honest, there's only one character to talk about, and that is Dolours Price. We meet Dolours at various points in her life, but the one we stick with is Dolours as a teenager, and she is fresh-faced and idealistic, hoping to change the world. And it's the 70s, so peace and love is the vibe. And so in choosing to walk that path, she is going against her parents. So I guess if we're talking tropes, we might as well throw in rebellious to that too. When we first meet Dolours, what she wants is to unite Ireland through peace. However, over the course of the episode, after she gets attacked during a peaceful process, she is consumed by wounded pride and anger, and then decides that peace will never work. Therefore, violence must be the answer. Which, in her world, having grown up around parents who have always said that violence is the only way to see change, makes sense that that is where her logical thinking would take her next. Dolours is only human and she's a teenager, and she basically wants to make the other side, the English and the Protestants, suffer the way that she suffered. I think it's a really clear metamorphosis of character, but it doesn't feel scripted, which is great. The pilot episode clearly shows us the start of Dolours' next phase in life, as she will likely become more embedded with the IRA. However, there is definitely going to be some sort of second turning point that we are not yet privy to. It's basically whatever turns her from this hungry teen, chomping at the bit to join up and fight the good fight, to an older woman with a very different view of the organisation, which we'll get to when we discuss the end of episode hook. Now, Dolours has two main relationships in the pilot that we watch her dynamics with. The first one being the IRA, and the second is with her sister, Marianne. Now, I believe Marianne is the younger sister. She is quiet, she has brown hair, and that essentially makes her invisible next to the vibrant whirlwind that is Dolours. Now, Dolours drags Marianne everywhere with her, even right into the heart of danger, so to the peaceful protest, which, to be fair to Dolours, She didn't expect to get violent, but then she does in fact convince Marianne to come with her into the middle of an actual riot round the corner from their house. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to sibling dynamics like that, I always fear for one of their lives. And now it is time for a quick interlude to see what film and TV life is looking like beyond the pilot principle. And of course, we start with books. I love that I can do that in the same breath. So I am currently still reading Missing You by Harlan Coben. I'm about, I want to say, not quite half, but almost halfway through. And can I just say that I completely forgot that it's an American book? Because, of course, I've seen most of his adaptations, which have been done in the UK in some small nondescript town that was clearly filmed up in Manchester. It took me a few pages to get into the fact that the character was an NYPD detective and she lived in New York and she walked around Central Park. And I was like, oh, but which one of you is going to be Richard Armitage's character? Comparisons aside though, as a book on its own, I won't lie, so far I'm not quite enjoying it. I'm finding the main character, Kat, a bit of a ridiculous detective. Like, she's trying to pursue and find out what happened to her dad, but at the same time there's this other case going on, but she won't believe anything this kid is telling her. But I'm like, but nobody believes you when you're talking about your dad, but you're not believing this kid when he's talking about his mum. Make it make sense, Kat. Make it make sense. Also, I think the writing style, the tone of voice is just a little, I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit overly done. It's a bit overcooked. Yeah, let's put it like that. It's a bit overcooked. I'm, of course, going to finish it. And in January, when it comes to me likely reviewing episode 1 of Missing You, when it comes out on Netflix, I can tell you all that I read the book. So it's worth it for that alone. Okay, moving over to film, and actually I've done not too bad this week. I went to the cinema, yay me, and I watched Heretic, which is just another man who just keeps talking. Like, I think first Harlan Coben, then Hugh Grant. When will it end? Somebody please tell me when the men will stop talking. No, Heretic was good. I think the underlying themes and the story I think worked really well, but to be honest, and this is coming from someone who doesn't actually watch that much horror, I wanted there to be more horror. I wanted it to be a bit more creepy, a little bit more thrilling. But honestly, these two girls were sat on a couch and then listened to Hugh Grant's character speak. Then these two girls were stood in a room and then had to listen to Hugh Grant, what's the word I'm looking for? Eulogize? Soliloquy? Anyway. Yeah, I just felt bad for the two women who just had to sit there and stand there and crawl there and just listen to him keep talking. But a very interesting concept. After Heretic, I watched Venom literally on the same day, double bill. Venom was, as expected, the third movie in a basically forgotten trilogy that can't wait to be over. So I did enjoy the character of Venom, and in a sense, I think I will miss it a little bit because, come for me if you will, I'm not quite sure if Tom Hardy can act, but he does a bloody good Eddie Brock. I went from the cinema to the couch and watched Time Cut, which was okay. It was fine. I think the twist at the end was interesting. More so, not the twist about who the killer was, but what the main character Lucy decided to do. I had so many questions. Hun, how is this going to work out for the rest of your life? Was my main one. And finally, I watched my first Christmas movie. I watched Meet Me Next Christmas. I think that's what it's called. It's the one with Christina Milian. And that was just some solid, soulless fun. Although I don't know what the obsession is with pentatonics. That really took me by surprise. And I believe this is the second Christmas movie Pentatonix has starred in. I think the last one, it was more of a cameo-ish thing. It was the one with Candy Cane Lane with Eddie Murphy on Prime Video. They starred in that last year. Apparently Pentatonix love Christmas. And finally, over in TV land, I have begun watching Nautilus, which is showing over on Prime Video. It's okay. It's an easy Sunday watch. I'm only 4 out of 10 episodes in, so I'll probably just continue and let you know. I'm also still watching season 1 of Schitt's Creek and not loving it. I know everybody's like, David, ill David. But I'm just like, okay, please, can they leave this crappy hotel? It's really depressing me. And I don't like that mayor characters that really get my goat. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to give it to the end of the season and then maybe just pick something else to watch because it's a lunchtime show anyway, 20 minutes in and out. And the last show I'm actively watching is Mindhunter. So I'm on series 2 and I've got 3 episodes left of the series. I'm enjoying it. It wasn't what I expected it to be, but not in a bad way. And I'll let you know my thoughts when I'm done. Finally, on the catch-up list, so shows that I have begun but haven't picked up again in a little while, includes Penguin and the Day of the Jackal, which I will get to. There's just so much to watch, guys. I can't cope. I can't cope watching these things around doing all the other things I have to do in a day, but I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. In fact, I actually need to start a list of shows that I would like to tie up before the end of the year. So wish me luck. Fast forwarding over to the end of episode Hook, we have a few things that go down. Firstly, a teenage Dolours officially joins the IRA, and then a future Dolours, who is the present Dolours, tells her interviewee that she is happy to talk about the robberies and the London job, but she doesn't know what happened in Devis Flats. Devis Flats is where Jean lived, and we learn that Jean never came home and that she lived next door to active IRA members. Now, as we learn all this information about Jean, present-day Dolours tells us in a voiceover, or I guess technically is recording for oral histories, that the IRA would have you believe that they are about brotherhood and that everything you do together is for the greater good of a free and united Ireland. But older Dolours wants anybody listening to know that this is all lies. Based on the episode as a whole, as well as, of course, the end of episode Hook, here's where I'm thinking the series is going to go. Now, I think, firstly, that the unnamed interviewee, who so far hasn't revealed his name, will be one of Jean's kids, one of the younger ones who is still wondering what happened to his mum. And then, of course, we need to find out if Dolours actually does know what happened to Jean, because there was a ginger-haired woman in the room. I don't know if this was Dolours or if it wasn't Dolours when Jean was taken, based on Dolours joining the IRA as a teenager. So far, we're not sure where these two stories converge. However, we do need to consider, how reliable is Dolours? You know? It's her narrative we're hearing, but that doesn't mean she's being entirely truthful. After all, the series is called Say Nothing, and we have seen that from an early age, that mantra was drummed into Dolours. Thinking about the pilot's strong points overall, I would firstly say that Dolours has to be one of the biggest selling points, as it was interesting and felt different to follow a teenager, a woman, during the Troubles, and you could really feel her emotions and her emotional journey throughout the pilot and really understand why she made the decision to go from peaceful to violence and that need to do something that doesn't make her feel helpless. Also, yeah, loving the ginger hair. I just think it's a really simply well done way to make a character stand out, especially in comparison to the people around her. I also think the pilot really excelled in the historical elements, which didn't just feel like they were throwing facts at us, but it was embedded into the plot and was interesting and taught us new things. For example, I had no idea about the Cumann, which are the Irish Republican Women's Parliamentary Organisation, basically the female branch of the IRA, and I didn't realize or think about or know that the IRA only had male members up until a point, I suppose, because, you know, Dolours does in fact join the organization. But yeah, I kind of just feel like doing more research on this. The last thing to note about the pilot and what it did really well is the fact that they circled back to Jean, because I hate it when pilots tease you with something dramatic in those first 2 minutes and then they don't address it for another, 2 episodes or something. So it really rounded out the episode, starting with Jean being taken and then linking back to it at the end of the episode with the interviewer asking about it, and then also seeing back in the past Jean moving in with her family to Devis Flats, where she eventually gets taken from. The timeline is a bit all over the place, but it's pretty easy to follow, which is another added positive to the pilot for me. Now on the other side, what I didn't quite like about the pilot episode and just, took it down a notch for me, it's such a minor point, but there is this scene after Dolours gets beaten and she is a painter, so she's painting at home and, getting out her anger and frustration and humiliation. During this scene, they cut in 2 archive clips, each one less than 5 seconds. And it just didn't work to randomly see these 2 4:3 black and white videos playing while Dolours is painting. And that point especially stands because the following scene, we watch what looks like archive footage, but it's playing out of a TV, so it exists within the space of the pilot episode. So yeah, I don't know why they threw in those clips there. It was just a bit jarring and I was like, okay, is this a documentary or is this a drama? But again, that's just me nitpicking. The archive bit lasted less than 10 seconds and it's relatively forgettable. Well, obviously not, because it still kind of bothers me. And just like that, it's time to make a decision. Now, based on everything I've said so far, here is why I think Say Nothing might be for you. Firstly, if you are interested in history, but not in an overly academic way, like you wouldn't watch a documentary, but you also don't want to read a Wikipedia page or a textbook, but you don't mind watching dramas to sort of help you work out the timeline of the universe, then I think Say Nothing might be for you. Also, if you enjoy a story that spans decades, then Say Nothing might be for you because it really does move through time with very little signposting, which is something I always appreciate. And finally, if you like a side of mystery to your drama, but don't want the mystery to be the entire genre, then I think you'll enjoy what this show has to offer because, of course, we have the story of what happened to Jean, which is the mystery, but there's no police detective, thus far, trying to solve the case. It's just a thing that interlinks with somebody else's narrative, possibly. Now, on the flippity flip side, here are some reasons why Say Nothing might not be for you. I guess firstly, if you are tired of only hearing stories surrounding the Troubles when there's a new drama to come out of Ireland, then you might want to stay clear of this one. Also, if you don't like teenagers as a lead character, and I have nothing against you for this, I can understand where you're coming from. Sometimes it's just a bit boring. They can be so complaining, these teenagers. They're all like plucky, trying to solve things, and it can just get a bit jarring. So if that's something you would stay clear of, then you might want to stay clear of Say Nothing. It's hard to say how much teenage Dolours is going to feature compared to an older Dolours or a Dolours in her 20s or 30s. And I suppose finally, kind of reiterating but repackaging one of the points I made on the other side, but if you prefer a mystery to be a mystery and a drama to be a drama, then again, you might want to stay clear of this show because it seems to infuse the two. Heck, it's in the synopsis. It's a story of murder and memory. The last thing for me to do is to give episode 1 of Say Nothing, The Cause, a pilot score, and I will be giving it a 4 out of 5, mostly because I'm being stingy. I think it was a great story and a great character introduction, and it was really well written. It was pretty damn visceral. As I'm watching it, I could really feel the tension of the day, of the historical period. I could really feel Dolours' emotions. I was gripped on their story. I'm curious about what's happening with Jean. Considering so many things were happening, I think they all connected together really nicely. I never felt the jarring cut between different scenes or different stories. Also, I have to say that the voiceover was a very strong addition to the narrative, which does make a change because sometimes people just be dropping in voiceover as a cheat code to help bridge story. But in this case, I think it really enforced it. You know what? Screw it. 5 out of 5. Even though I've got an already buckling list, I will in fact be continuing with Say Nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, I was tempted to let it roll on to episode 2. So if nothing else, that's how you know a pilot's done a good job. Thanks for joining me this week. Let me know what your thoughts are on the pilot episode for Say Nothing. If you're listening on Spotify, you can just drop me a comment right here somehow. But if you're not listening on Spotify, then you can, of course, chat to me over on Instagram and Twitter at Pilot Principal. I cannot recall what's next on the pilot roster. Possibly Dune Prophecy? Either way, I will catch you on the next episode.